All right, welcome. If you're gearing up for the GCP Professional Cloud Architect exam, you know some topics are, well, they're just tough. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into one of the biggest hurdles, mastering Google Cloud Firewall rules. And look, this isn't just about clicking buttons. It's about thinking like an architect.
So let me ask you this right off the bat. When you build, are you building a solid wall or something more like a leaky sieve? You see, the PCI exam doesn't really care if you know how to open a port. What it's really testing is your ability to design a security strategy that's robust, secure, and actually scalable.
And that's the real challenge for an architect, right? We have to move beyond thinking about just one single rule and start designing a whole security strategy. Making that mental shift, well, that's what this is all about.
Okay, first things first. Before you can build a fortress, you have to know your bricks. So let's break down the anatomy of a firewall rule and really get a handle on every single component. So, every single firewall rule you create is made of these four core pieces. You've got direction, that's easy, is traffic coming in, ingress, or going out, egress. Then there's action, what are you going to do? Allow it or deny it. Targets, that's which VMs the rule even applies to. And then you have priority. We're going to circle back to that one, it's important. Now, on top of those core parts, you've got your filters. This is how you get really specific. You can filter by things like IP ranges, or you can even target other VMs using these little labels called tags, or even better, security identities called service accounts. And of course, you've got your protocols and ports, like good old TCP port 22 for SSH.
Okay, let's talk about priority, because this trips up so many people. It's completely counterintuitive. In Google Cloud, the lower the number, the higher the priority. A rule with a priority of 900 will be looked at before a rule with a priority of 1,000. You have to burn that into your brain. It is a classic exam gotcha. And this brings us to our first major exam trap, the implicit rules. Every single new VPC network you spin up starts in this exact state. By default, absolutely nothing can get in, but everything can get out. So if you get a question on the exam asking why your brand new VM can download software updates but you can't ping it, the answer is right here. It's the default state.
All right, theory's over. Let's move into the real world. We're going to translate those building blocks into the kinds of practical security scenarios you're going to see on the exam.
Here's a classic one. You need to let your admins SSH into a virtual machine. Simple request, right? Just open up port 22. But see, an architect doesn't just ask how. An architect asks, what's the best and most secure way to do this?
And this right here is the perfect example of that architect mindset. Yeah, you can open port 22 to a specific IP range, but the exam's preferred answer is almost always to use Identity-Aware Proxy, or IAP. With this method, you're tunneling traffic through Google's own secure infrastructure. That means you never actually expose port 22 to the public internet at all. The only rule you need is one that lets traffic in from Google's IAP range, which is 35.235.240.0/20. It's just a much better way.
Now, let's hit another topic that comes up on the exam all the time: how you target your rules. You've got two main options: simple string-based tags or IAM service accounts. Now, tags are easy, but they're just text labels. Anybody with the right permissions on that instance can change them. Service accounts, on the other hand, are a true cryptographic identity. They're tied to the VM, and they are way more secure and a lot harder to mess with.
So here's the bottom line. This is crucial. If an exam question asks for the strongest security posture or the most secure method, and the choice is between tags and service accounts, the answer is service accounts, every single time. Why? Because identity always beats a simple, changeable string.
So far, we've really been focused on a single VPC network, but a true architect has to think way bigger, about security and governance across an entire company. It's time to scale up our thinking to hierarchical policies.
I mean, just imagine for a second, you're not managing one network. You're responsible for over 100 of them, scattered across dozens and dozens of projects. You just can't rely on individual teams to get their firewall rules right every time. It doesn't scale, and honestly, it's a compliance nightmare just waiting to happen.
And the solution to this scaling problem is hierarchical firewall policies. See, these are rules you don't set on the VPC itself. You set them way up at the top, at the organization or folder level in your Google Cloud setup. And the key thing is they're inherited and enforced all the way down. Every single VPC under them has to obey.
So here's a direct tip for the exam. If you're reading a question and you see phrases like centralized control, or ensure compliance, or enforce a policy across all future projects, your brain should immediately jump to hierarchical firewall policies. That's the trigger. That's what they're looking for.
So how does this all fit together? Well, the order of evaluation is absolutely critical. First, Google Cloud checks the hierarchical policies from the top down. If one of those policies denies the traffic, it's game over. That's it. Only if the traffic is allowed or delegated does it even make it down to the local VPC firewall rules, which are then evaluated by their priority number. The hierarchy always wins.
Okay, enough theory. It's time for the exam gauntlet. Let's put this knowledge to the test with some really tricky practice questions I've cooked up. All right, first one up. Your company has a super strict policy. Absolutely no public SSH access, period. But you've got developers who keep opening it up for quick debugging. You need a way to enforce this block everywhere, and you need to make sure local project admins can't get around it. What do? So, your options are A, a VPC rule with a priority of 0. B, a hierarchical policy with a go-to-next action. C, a hierarchical policy with an explicit deny action. Or D, a script that just cleans up the bad rules after somebody creates them. The answer here is C, hierarchical policy with a deny action. Why? Because it's evaluated first, and it cannot be overridden by those local admins. Now, A is a classic trap because a local admin can still just go in and delete that VPC rule. B is wrong because go-to-next basically says, I don't have an opinion, let the local rules decide, which is exactly what we're trying to prevent. And D, well, D is reactive. The exam will always prefer a proactive preventative control, like a policy. Okay, next question. You've got a web tier that needs to talk to your app tier. Here are the constraints. The IP addresses are always changing, and, this is critical, your instance admins are allowed to change VM tags. So, what firewall setup gives you the absolute strongest security posture?
And the answer, of course, is B, filtering by the service account. This goes right back to what we talked about. Since the admins can change the tags, using them for security is incredibly weak. A mischievous admin could just slap the app server tag on their own machine to get access. But they can't just change the cryptographic identity of a service account. It provides the strongest security because it's based on who you are, not just a label someone stuck on you. So let's end right where we started. After going through all of this, from the basic components all the way up to enterprise-wide enforcement, the real question is about your mindset. Are you just building individual rules? Or are you starting to design security policy? Because thinking like an architect, that's the key to the exam, and it's the key to building truly great solutions on Google Cloud.